Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig Sports. This is the NBA DFS video for today, Thursday, December 7th. If you join me for the very first time, this is how today's video will be structured. A little bit more typical in the beginning because we will have the recap of yesterday's picks. We'll get moved over to the injuries and play for the two-game slate of today, and then we'll get over to DraftKings and FanDuel. Not going to do a traditional core pick video. We're going to break down position by position, talk through each of them, and kind of help guide you along that way, kind of where my thoughts and feelings would be for this slate just in general. But without further ado, we'll get started off with that recap of yesterday's picks. So we're going to start off on the DraftKings side. We got Darius Garland, $7,500 at that point guard position. Looking for 37-38 out, got to 43.75. So he was a really good hit on yesterday's slate. At shooting guard, we had Bojan Bogdanovic. Looked really good yesterday. Ultimately did end up starting. And I do want to apologize because initially I had listed that he wasn't starting. One of my sources did have it listed as Ivy, Cunningham, Hayes, Stewart, and Duren, but it ended up being Bogdanovic starting in place, I believe, of Ivy. So really good play yesterday. We were looking for 25-26 out, got to 44.5, so excellent hit there. Then small forward, we went Brandon Miller. So small forward didn't look the greatest, at least early on yesterday. So Brandon Miller looking for 28-29 out of him, got to 30, so he was a hit as well. At power forward, we had Jabari Walker, and I did kind of note that there was always the chance that he didn't start. That ended up being the case yesterday. $4,400, looking for 22 out, got 22.75, so he was a hit as well. And then last but not least, we had Dot Breath at center at $3,200, looking for 16 out, got 25, so he was a hit as well. So a pretty solid day on the DraftKings side yesterday. If you had exposure to these guys and you got to like some Joel Embiid, some Luka Doncic, or Desmond Bane, probably was a good day for you overall. If you didn't get to some of those guys, a little bit harder day to cash just in general, but still a 5-for-5 day in terms of hits on the DraftKings side. Then on the FanDuel side, we went Darius Garland, $7,500, looking for 38 points out, got to 43.1, so he is a hit once again. At shooting guard, unfortunately, we had Cam Thomas, $6,700, looking for 34 out of him, averaging 36 on the season. Had one of his worst games probably of his entire career. He played 27 minutes yesterday, 3 for 10 shooting, 5 turnovers, had 1 assist, 1 rebound, and 6 points. So just was not a good day for him whatsoever in a very favorable matchup against the Atlanta Hawks. So we're just going to chalk that one off as an unfortunate miss. And then at small forward, we had Jabari Walker here, $4,300, looking for 21-22 out of him, got to 23.5 on the FanDuel side, so he was a hit over there. Then at power forward, to start off the day, we had Isaiah Stewart at $5,200, looking for 26 points out, got 17.9. He was a miss. He had like 9 points, 7 rebounds, was okay in that department. No blocks, no steals, anything else like that. Only played 28 minutes in this game, did have 5 fouls, so there was a potential that he was in some foul trouble in this game as well. But I did say that you could go over to P.J. Washington once it was announced that Mark Williams was not starting. P.J. Washington was $6,100, looking for 31 points out, got to 30.2, so technically he was a push on yesterday's slate. And then last but not least at that center position, we went with Orlando Robinson here at $4,500, looking for 23 points out. He doubled that yesterday with 46.4, so he was a really good hit. So with that being said, a little bit more hit or miss day on FanDuel. If you had some exposure to Luka Doncic and Desmond Bane with the score 5, you had a chance of cashing. I actually had that happen in my main lineup myself, so it was possible on yesterday's slate. Just a little bit harder to get to the top, with that big Cam Thomas whiff, unfortunately, yesterday. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to RotoWire and talk about the injuries and play for tonight's two-game main slate. So I'm going to start off saying right now, pretty much everybody that is out, we already expected to be out. Everybody that does have a designation at this point in time, we do expect to play today. But if there's any updates throughout the day, we'll leave that down in the comments below. So for the Pacers, it's Jalen Smith out once again, so should be pretty similar to their most recent game. And then for the Bucks, Pat Connaughton and Jake Crowder both remain out, so pretty much what we've seen out of the Bucks for a while now. And then for the Pelicans, we got Larry Nance, Matt Ryan, both listed as out. No real changes to their rotation whatsoever. Should be really similar to what we saw in that most recent game. And then for the Lakers, Gabe Vincent remains out. LeBron's technically questionable, but he's going to play. Jared Vanderbilt is technically probable, but he's going to play. And Anthony Davis is technically probable, but he's going to play as well. So not too much in the injury department here. If anything does change with that whatsoever throughout the day, we'll leave it down in the comments as well as the starting lineups as they do come out throughout the night. Obviously, it's going to be a really weird slate because we have 4 hours between these two games. So this first game is going to lock, and then we're not even going to know the starting lineup probably for like 3+ hours for the other two. Although these starting lineups today should be pretty typical of what we've seen out of these teams as of late. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to DraftKings and talk through the breakdown over there. So we're going to start off at the point guard position. Tyrese Haliburton's $10,600. Pretty decent price tag on DraftKings today. It's probably going to be the better spot just because the over-under in this game is about 25 points higher than the other game. Both the Pacers and the Bucks play pretty fast at this point in time, and they are not playing too much defense at this point in time as well. So definitely do like Tyrese Haliburton and Damian Lillard for those reasons. Both are very reasonably priced. And then we get down to CJ McCollum, $7,700, pretty decent price tag for him as well going against the Lakers. So if you want to pay down from one of the top two guys, you could do it. And then we have D'Angelo Russell here. He's $6,300, so he is a saving option, but if he doesn't close this game, he's probably not paying off at this price tag. Bruce Brown, I think we're just going to talk about when we get moved over to small forward. And then we got Dyson Daniels, who played minimal minutes in the quarterfinals, so not really too interested in him. If you want to take a shot on Jose Alvarado at $4,200 or Cam Payne down here at $3,900, those would be the two paydown options at point guard tonight. We saw Andrew Nembhard barely play in the quarterfinals. Jordan Hawkins was completely out of the rotation. And then we got two guys down here in TJ McConnell and AJ Green, who both played minimally in the quarterfinals game. If you really, really want to take a shot on them, you can do it. Probably not something I'm going to recommend on tonight's slate, though, overall. But we'll get moved over to shooting guard. Brandon Ingram definitely in play. He has a pretty reasonable salary tonight at $8,000. Obviously, you're hoping for a little bit of upside there, but not a bad price tag whatsoever. You know, if you're not getting to the top guys, would look pretty decent here, but I think I'm probably going to get to CJ McCollum if I get to any Pelicans in that price range. And then we got Buddy Hield, $6,200. Looks a little bit more like a GPP play, but the Bucks do give up threes and bunches at times, so could be a pretty big game for him just in general. Austin Reeves, he closed their most recent game, so if he's closing over D'Angelo Russell, is going to look pretty decent at $6,000. Then we get down to Chris Middleton, $5,900. Only played 26 minutes in their most recent game in that quarterfinals matchup. We'll see whether or not he can play a couple extra tonight. At 26, looks like a fair value. If he gets up to 28 tonight, it's going to look even better. Then we got Malik Beasley at $5,700. Probably going to benefit from this matchup, but not a guy that I'm really getting to too much, but there is some upside to be had there if you really want to get there. Then we got Trey Murphy, second game back on the season, played 30 minutes off the bench, so definitely going to have some interest in him at $4,900. Benedict Mathurin, just another GPP upside. If you're not getting a Buddy Hield in your lineup, go to Benedict Mathurin at $4,700 because probably only one of those two are going to close this game tonight overall. It's going to be whoever ultimately ends up playing better. And then we got Cam Reddish. He's $4,500. Not a bad price tag, so he's kind of a pay down option. He played 30 minutes in their most recent game. Did not produce whatsoever in that game, but there is some upside to be had there at one of the cheaper price tags on today's slate overall. And then after that, if you want to get down to Marshawn Beauchamp at $3,800, probably going to get like 12 minutes out of him tonight and kind of hope and pray that he ultimately pays off in those 12 minutes. And then Max Christie barely played in the most recent game for the Lakers, so not really too interested in him at this point in time. We'll get moved over to small forward. LeBron's at the top, $9,800. Going to look like a cash game play today. He played 40 minutes in that quarterfinals matchup, went berserk, and probably going to expect similar out of him tonight. Already talked about Hield and Reeves and Middleton. We'll get down to Bruce Brown, $5,800. Going to play big minutes. Not the greatest fantasy point per minute guy, but if you want to throw him in your lineup as kind of a lineup filler, definitely would consider that. Herb Jones, $5,500 is a guy that I do like a lot tonight. He's been playing really well as of late, so I would consider him even a cash game play on tonight's slate overall. And then we talked about Mathurin, we talked about Murphy, we talked about Daniels. So we get down to Taurean Prince, just kind of a pay down option here at $4,300. I believe only played 27 minutes in their most recent game, so with some of them guys coming back and being healthier, could affect him a little bit overall. And then that pretty much looks like everybody that could be in play. If you really want to take a stab at Andre Jackson Jr., you could do it. He didn't really play their most recent game outside of some blowout run. Maybe he jumps AJ Green tonight, but at the same time, he's not a good fantasy point per minute guy just in general, so probably not a guy that I'm getting to. But if you want like kind of the ultimate dart throw at 3,000, you could do that. Then we move over to power forward. Giannis is obviously at the top at $11,000. Does have their really high end upside. It is that pace up spot with the Bucks and the Pacers. So definitely a guy that you want to consider on tonight's slate. Might be a little bit difficult getting to him just since he's the highest priced player on the slate overall, but definitely do like the upside he presents. Then we have Anthony Davis at $9,600. Still has power forward and center eligibility on DraftKings once again today. So that's kind of nice. Do like the upside that he could present. You know, he's going to go out and play pretty big minutes once again. Zion Williamson is kind of the guy that I'm not really interested in getting to today at $8,400. The upside's a little bit limited. And, you know, since McCollum's been back, he hasn't been quite as good. We already talked about Herb Jones. Bobby Portis, just purely a GPP upside type of play if you want to roll him out there at $5,400. And then we get down to kind of our pay down options. So we got Obi Toppin. You could play him at power forward or center, $5,100. Probably going to play like 26 minutes tonight. If he pays off in those minutes, could look pretty good, but he could also get into foul trouble against Giannis too. So not the greatest spot for him just in general. Aaron Nesmith below him, $4,600, played 30 minutes against the Celtics in that quarterfinals game. Has some upside there, just kind of another pay down option. Same thing can be said with Rui Hachimura. He played 21 minutes in the quarterfinals game, $4,100. Do like the upside that he could present if he plays 20 minutes once again. And then Jared Vanderbilt down here at $3,800. I believe he only played 16 minutes in that quarterfinals matchup, so if he gets up to like 18 today, he's going to be a lot more interesting, but if he's kind of stuck at 16, he might not pay off for us overall. And that's pretty much what we have for power forwards today. We'll get moved over to center. Center is mainly just going to be the four guys starting overall tonight. So we already talked about Anthony Davis. Obviously you could play Giannis at center too if you really wanted to do so. Miles Turner is going to be pretty interesting. $7,000 pace-up matchup there. They're probably going to want him to play bigger minutes tonight, especially going against Brook Lopez and Giannis just in general. Jonas Valanciunas, purely just a GPP play for me at this point in time. Still not playing massive minutes in this spot. They did go to a little bit smaller lineup at times, but going against Anthony Davis, I wonder if they'll go to that smaller lineup or not. So Valanciunas, $6,600, just a GPP play for me at this point in time. Brook Lopez looks pretty good at $6,100, played pretty big minutes in their most recent game as well. And then other than that, really not too interesting getting to guys. It's just the cheap guys would be Bobby Portis and Obi Toppin at that center position. Christian Wood didn't play the most recent game. Isaiah Jackson didn't really play. Jackson Hayes played like 5 minutes if you really want to do that. Cody Zeller played like 4 minutes. So not really too interested in anybody down at the bottom at that center position overall. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown on the DraftKings side for today's slate overall. We'll get moved over to FanDuel and do the same thing over there. So FanDuel, we have Tyrese Halliburton priced up even more, $11,600. Looks a little bit more like a GPP play, although it is a really good matchup tonight. So I think the upside's just a little bit more capped on FanDuel in general. I do prefer Damian Lillard on the other side of the ball. If you want to get to CJ McCollum at $8,200, definitely could do that. And then kind of D'Angelo Russell, like we talked about on the DraftKings side. Not a bad price tag at $6,700 if we know he's going to close the game. But if he doesn't close the game, if it's Austin Reeves, not going to look too good overall. So probably not a guy I'm getting to quite as much tonight. And then in terms of your pay down options, you got Jose Alvarado and Campaign as the main two. And then, obviously if you wanted to get to like a TJ McConnell, a Dyson Daniels or somebody like that, you could, but it's a little bit more of a dart throw at that. McConnell only played like 9 minutes. I think Dyson Daniels played like 11 or 12, I want to say off the top of my head. $3,600, not a bad pay down spot for him though. If he would ultimately go out and play like 18 minutes, maybe he pays off at that spot. Then we move over to shooting guard. So we got Chris Middleton. Everything I said on DraftKings still applies. He played 26 minutes in his most recent game. If he plays 26 minutes again tonight, he's going to look all right. If he plays 28 or more, he's going to look like a really good option just in general. Buddy Hield on the opposite side looks a little bit better on FanDuel, although you don't get the 3-point bonuses there. If he's out there, if he's shooting the ball well, he's probably going to close this game. If the game's really competitive, he's probably going to close the game unless Benedict Mathurin's playing really well. But I do like Buddy Hield just a little bit tonight. It is a good matchup versus the Bucks, who have given up 3-pointers in bunches at times this season. Then we have Herb Jones, probably going to play him at small forward either way, but shooting guard, small forward eligible, $6,000, playing really well as of late, a guy that I do like getting to once again tonight. Austin Reeves looks a little bit better on FanDuel, where he's only $5,900. If he closes this game, he's going to look really good. Then we got Malik Beasley, who is only $5,200 on the FanDuel side, so looks a little bit better over here as opposed to DraftKings. Does have some decent upside with the minutes he's playing, but has a little bit of downside at the same time. Benedict Mathurin, Cam Reddish, they're both just going to be pay down options once again. They're guys that are going out there. They could get decent size minutes. If they're playing well, they could pay off. If they don't play well, they're probably going to hurt your lineups overall. And that's pretty much it because, Nembhard, Hawkins, Christie, they all either didn't play or played very, very minimal minutes in that quarterfinals round. Then we move over to the small forward position. LeBron James, $10,600. So he's more expensive on the FanDuel side than he was on DraftKings. Still think he's a decent play. He's probably going to play 40 minutes, get you 50-plus points. So not a bad price tag for him overall. Just doesn't have quite as much value as he does on DraftKings. Brandon Ingram, you can get there if you want to at $8,400. He has some upside, but I don't completely love that price tag. Bruce Brown, probably not a guy I'm getting to at $6,300 more times than not. Would just be a lineup filler at that, but I think he's a little bit overpriced for tonight's slate just in general. Already talked about Middleton, already talked about Hield, already talked about Herb Jones and Austin Reeves. Trey Murphy is a pure GPP upside guy tonight. Obviously, he did play 30 minutes in that most recent game, but wasn't like the most efficient in those minutes either. $5,500 is not a bad price tag. Could easily outperform that if he plays 30 minutes once again, though. Then we keep moving down. So we get down to Aaron Nesmith, $4,600, just a pay down option if you want to get there. If he plays the minutes, he could ultimately pay off at that price tag. Rui Hachimura, probably more like the power forward, but you can play him at power forward and small forward. If he goes out there, plays 20 minutes again, and plays decently well, scores the ball a little bit, could ultimately pay off at this price tag overall. Same thing can be said about Taurean Prince, $3,900. Not a bad pay down option today, just in general. Only played 27 minutes in that most recent game, though. Najee Marshall is probably playable on the FanDuel side at $3,800, but probably only getting like 14 minutes in this game, so not anybody I'm super interested in. And then we got Marshawn Beauchamp down here at $3,500. Flat minimum, probably only getting like 12 minutes for you tonight. If he pays off in that 12 minutes, could ultimately be a guy that helps your lineups, though. Then we move over to power forward, so we got Giannis at the top, $12,100. A little bit more difficult to get to, but everybody seems to be a little bit more priced up on FanDuel, and then kind of the cheaper guys are a little bit cheaper at the same time as well. So if you want to get there, definitely makes a lot of sense. Then there's Anthony Davis, who's like $1,600 more expensive on FanDuel. You got the block upside, which kind of helps him out a little bit, but probably just kind of a guy I'm mixing and matching in the lineups, not going out of my way to get to. Really don't like Zion Williamson. Once again, at $8,300, just kind of a dart throw if you want to go there, but not really anybody I'm getting to myself personally. For Bobby Portis, he's purely just a GPP upside type of play. Once again, probably only going out there for like 24 minutes. If he pays off in that 24 minutes, going to help your lineup. If he doesn't, probably going to hurt your lineup. Obi Toppin is a pay down option, 26 minutes, probably most likely for him at $5,000. If he gets into foul trouble against Giannis, probably not going to look too good for him. But if he's out there and if he's scoring the ball pretty well, could be kind of interesting in that regard, although I think it's a little bit tougher matchup just for him in general. Already talked about Nesmith, Hachimura, and Prince. I don't think there's much else down here besides Jared Vanderbilt at $3,800. Obviously, he played like 16 minutes in their most recent game. If he goes out there and plays more than that, he's going to look really good. If he plays less than that, he's probably not going to help out your lineups whatsoever. So that's kind of what we have in terms of power forward. We'll get moved over to center, which center is pretty much the four guys that are starting once again. So we got Anthony Davis at the top. Miles Turner, $7,400. He's going to go out there and play decent-sized minutes. Going to look like a pretty decent option as long as he doesn't get into foul trouble in this game. Kind of the one interesting situation would be if he gets into foul trouble, do they just go to Obi Toppin at center or do they go back to Isaiah Jackson at that center position? That would be a key question for tonight's slate overall if that situation does ultimately end up happening. I like Brook Lopez at $6,600 playing his massive minutes. Obviously, you do have the block upside on FanDuel as well. And then Jonas Valanciunas, purely just a GPP option once again. A little bit tougher matchup against Anthony Davis. Not really interested in anybody else here. You know, if you really are desperate and you want to take that dart throw on Jackson Hayes, you could at $3,500, but played minimal minutes in their most recent game. But with that being said, that's the quick little rundown for the FanDuel side as well. Hopefully you guys found this breakdown pretty useful in general as you're building out lineups throughout today. If you have any other questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to note whether those questions are more FanDuel or DraftKings specific, just so I can best help you as quickly and efficiently as possible. And then as always, I'll be leaving all the injury updates down in the comments throughout the day. Don't really expect too much to be there today, but if there's anything that does come up, it will be down there. Most likely it's just going to be the Laker guys officially getting ruled in. And then with that being said, I'll list these starting lineups as they do come out as well. Shouldn't be anything too crazy on a 2-game slate, and we kind of know what these starting lineups should look like for these 4 teams overall. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have NBA DFS Monday through Friday. In terms of the core pick videos, this week's been kind of a mess since the in-season tournament, a lot of 2-game slates, so we've been doing more breakdown videos. Tomorrow will be the traditional core pick video, so hopefully you guys are looking forward to that. And then with that being said, I also do put out my NFL DFS player pool video on Saturday. Typically that comes out late morning, early afternoon. So if that's something you're into, definitely be sure to check that out, as well as my NFL DFS cheat sheets that do go up on the Sports Affiliation channel for both DraftKings and FanDuel. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Prize Picks, and Parlay Play. If you are a brand new user to any one of those 3 sites, make your first deposit, you will get an initial first match deposit bonus. So for Prize Picks and Parlay Play, that's up to $100. So if you put $100 in, you get $100 as your bonus. If you put $10 in, you get $10 as your bonus. And then for BetUS, it's 125% of your initial deposit up to $2,500. So if you put $100 in, you'll get $125 in site credit and promo cash for BetUS overall. So some pretty good opportunities there. If you have any questions related to prop betting, sports betting whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NBA DFS tonight.